Hello.
Hello, hello.
Am I in the right place?
Yes.
Cool.
Start
Yay. I didn't know you were going to be
recording.
here. That's so cool.
I am always here.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to session 4, I guess it is, on accessibility and Doenet. So today we're just going to try to give you an overview of sort of best practices for accessibility, and in particular, how one can take advantage of Doenet to make sure that your documents are not only meet accessibility requirements, but that they also are just easiest for people to use for those who are navigating and using assistive technologies or have other accessibility needs. I'm going to start off, I guess let me share my screen and I'll just go to a blank document. Up to share, we don't want this yet. I'm just going to create a new blank document. Okay, so by now people are familiar with how basically how Donut works, and one of the aspects of Donut is that we view it as a semantic language. We view it as you write what you mean, and we'll figure out how to display it. And one advantage of that is that as you write things semantically, we can then take what you wrote and try to make sure that it is accessible as possible. And in particular, we can keep updating, like we can make your content become more and more accessible as we learn how to better meet people's needs. Um, so just some really basic uh, screen reader accessibility requirements or things to make it easier for um, those using screen readers is to just use the semantic tags that we have. So that's simple enough. So if you're going to make a section and you want to make a title, this is my title, use the title tag, use the section tag, rather than just like, trying to make some font. Well, we even prevent you from making the font bold. So you can actually, it's harder to do the bad things that people do in, like I say, a Word document where you just make things bold. And right, so the idea is you want to use this semantic structure because then it puts in the right headers for screen readers to be able to navigate, what is the structure of the document, and not just like, here's the text and things like that. Um, so section your document like that. You put in a subsection, etc., for the title, my subsection, etc. Like use things like that. Actually, you can even go one level above it. This is my document title, and right, so you have different subsections like this if you need. So just structuring it like this is one just sort of basic idea to make sure that the screen readers can navigate and see sort of the overall structure. I mean, all of these, if you use, let's say, a list document, a list structure like, LI for lists, all that will be taken care of first item. So basically, the first tip is just use the things that we give you. Second item, when you do that, then it renders it in ways that um, screen readers and those using assistive technologies can see what's going on. Like, we have something called like a tabular, right? Which is our table. I'll do a table with tabular. I'll get it all in there right away. Have a table with a tabular, use things like a header. So we have a row that has a header in there. When you put a header on your table, then the screen readers can know that is, so if this is like my state and this is my telephone or something, then when you go down over here and put in, Florida over here, and when screen readers get to Florida, it'll actually tell them that Florida is the state. It'll do things like this to help as screen readers are reading this to understand the structure of things. So I don't know what my telephone number is. It's not that. Let's see what else. Lists, tables, figures. You have captions when you write a figure. So basically, just try to write things structured, and it will end up being um, better for those who are trying to read it with different assistive technologies. Another um, just good point. If you're going to make this is not just true for Doenet, but if I make a reference and then I'm going to say reference to whatever Google, I guess I probably just put in HTTPS, something like this. So I'll do umn.edu, which is my own university, right? If you do something like here, that's not very useful. Like find the link to UMN here, whatever period. Like that's not a very usefully structured text because all the screen readers can see is that this link is here. Instead, you would say, you would do something more like, find the link to U of M, get rid of the word here, and then right now it's coded better for making sure your link is pointed to where it should be. Let's see, one other high level thing is I guess style definition. We haven't talked about style definitions yet, but I'm going to introduce style definitions at least just now so you can see one. When you make a style definition, I'm going to make a graph here. Something with a point, and then I put a point, style number equals 4. So here's my graph with a point in it. Well, it's mad at me because I have style definition halfway formed. When you make a style definition, and I say I'm going to make a style definition for style number equals 4, and then I'm going to say marker color equals, and then I could do something like, can I do pink? I don't know if that's accessible or not. Let's see. Okay, that is actually too accessible. I'm going to do a hex one. Like I'm going to try to do 0, 1, 2, 3. What's this? That's dark. I need high numbers. F2, A3, C1. There. Finally, now it gets mad at me that this marker color has insufficient contrast. So if you try to make colors that are not sufficiently accessible, and for the WCAG accessibility, you need to have a color contrast of less 3 to 1 for normal text. Well, actually, no, this is not 3 to 1 for graphical things. For text, if I did text color and I did the same thing, F2A3C1, it's going to get mad at me and actually say for text, you should have color contrast of 4.5. So whatever, it takes care of these things. For text, normal size text, you need to have a color contrast between background and foreground of at least 4.5. For like graphical items, it needs to be a contrast of at least 3.0. So these are the WCAG accessibility requirements, the AA requirements that we all have to meet by last April. And now they extended it for a year. We try to make it really obvious if you have a violation that we can detect, and so you can see these big angry underlines. You can also see over here it says accessibility violations have been identified. Click to open the accessibility report. If I open that, then it's going to give me the list of violations. So these will happen. We'll be using these a lot as we build Doenet documents. They'll give you a little bit of feedback if we can detect it. Again, we can't always detect, but we do our best effort to try to say, okay, here are some of the things that we've identified that are not meeting accessibility requirements. Any like just big picture questions of sort of accessibility and the why or the how, or before we start getting into more details? All right. Well, with that, I will let Virginia continue.
Hello. Okay, so we're going to dive into sort of looking at the features that Dwayne just mentioned and how they work. And then then go into the nitty gritty. So let me share my screen. And shows. What happens if I click start writing? This is the scratchpad thing I haven't used very much. Maybe I'll try this. It's
Yeah, that works.
a lot of stuff. Um, so basically there's some features on the editor just to familiarize yourself with them that are brand new. So you'll actually probably see a lot of things if you go to explore and you grab something from the community page that looks really cool. You might be surprised that many of them are going to actually, instead of having this nice green man, you're going to have violations because these were introduced just a month or two ago. Um, so how can I violate something most easily? Let's just do a lot of times. This is probably the most common one. In previous Doenet, a lot of things were structured like this, and we would just call that good because it looks the same on the screen. But as you can see, this is where it's gonna tell you that you have violations. And so this part, you can also just, go to this man down here before this will like open up. This panel gives you what's happening with warnings and errors on your page, and the little man is the accessibility. So this must have a short description or label. So that's a child that was added in. I mean, we always had labels for math inputs, but we didn't use them as frequently. So now the nice thing about having the text, the x equals text inside your label is it's going to the website itself will pass the accessibility checkers, the automated checkers. So to fix errors, if you find things like that, or just as you're writing things, you want to get into the habit of just taking whatever you're gonna like your preamble to your math input or your text input and sticking it inside a label, and actually will render exactly the same on screen. But now, as the checkers look through and scan the site, they'll see this, and everything will check out. The screen readers, I've done a lot of screen reader testing, and at least the ones that I use, they kind of read them both the same. So it's not the end of the world, but it's good practice to like get into the habit of doing this. And also screen readers function differently, so it's best just to play it safe. So those are you saw the little squiggly underline. Those are the features that were added. And Dwayne said all of the documentation now has everything corrected, but you will find a lot of like activities out in the wild that won't necessarily have all of that. You might see the red. So questions on like the editor, using the editor, how to track down issues. All right. Okay, so I have a couple things to share. The first is this is sort of let's go to the view. It's just a reference cheat sheet of all of these different kind of like accessibility topics. Some of them are here's how specifically to encode the Doenet ML, and then some of it is just like here's how to author things so that they are accessible. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this in the chat. So you guys can use this if it's helpful while we go through some exercises. And then we will talk about how to create accessible inputs of all different types. Okay, so this second link in the chat is the document that we're going to kind of work through to get into the nitty-gritty. Do I unhighlight the cascade? Yeah. Okay. Have you guys done cascade component before in the workshop? Okay. It's really fun. This is a Honorog special invention. But basically if you have something, an activity that you want to be exposed to the students as they work through in increments, you just wrap everything in your document in a cascade component, and then it'll turn green here when you finish everything, and then it'll automatically open up the next task. So that's fun. Okay, so the first exercise, I'll let you guys tinker around with it. We have the math input tag. When you load it up, you should see that Doenet is getting angry. It's going to take a while to make it really happy and have it be green, but see if you can make the squiggly line go away by tweaking what's going on with the math input. Let me know when you guys are ready to go on, or if you guys have any questions. I just now realized I have to make a copy of this because if I change it, it's gonna change for you guys. Or is that true? Did you guys you guys made a copy, right? Probably.
All right.
Okay.
You can also just load it into Scratchpad. Sometimes I do that.
Oh, okay, I'll do that.
If you go to, you have to do that from like I don't think you can get that from your regular page, but if you look at it from the activity viewer page, you can do it.
I didn't really understand that, what you just said.
What? Oh,
I'm just gonna make a copy because that was
okay.
complicated.
You know how you gave us the shareable link? If you go to the shareable link, there's a button from there. You can't get it from your
Oh,
page, but if you go to the link you pasted into the chat.
oh, gotcha.
All
And
right.
hold- Really need to organize my folders better. Oh, there it is. Okay, so there's actually two different ways to make Donut happy. And that is you can give it a short description or label. Um, so short descriptions do not get rendered on screen. They just get read out by the screen reader. So depending on context, you may or may not want to do that. So go ahead and share my screen. And so I would just go ahead and like add the label child in here and then copy this over. And I'm doing this. I'm just going to comment out my cascade too, so I don't have to do this for each one. Um, all right. So then if you edit something, the squiggly line will disappear, but you don't really see if you resolved it until, um, how is this green?
Because it probably is not even rendering anything in the cascade, maybe.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
when I did the check work and that it was green, then I moved on and it became red again.
That that's probably a bug. You should probably I'll put that an issue on that because I feel like that's a little deceiving, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know how to handle it. Yeah.
But
Good
either
to
way,
know.
yeah. So the thing about the cascade that I just discovered too a little bit ago is that you do have to have some type of validation happening in the little section that gets cascaded because otherwise it won't know that it's time to move on. So that's why I put the little click here when complete guy. Um, so on this next,
Before we go on,
yeah,
what happens if you use both short description and label? Who wins? Because
they
Donut's not
both,
yelling at me.
yeah, they both get read, and it's what I would suggest is no, like if you have this is what I want to render on screen, but I also want to tell the screen reader user a little bit extra. It's best to do it there. Because otherwise it'll just sound really repetitive. Like there would be no reason to have the label and the short description unless you're providing different pieces of information. But if you do provide different pieces of information, it makes sense when you use the screen reader and you get to that point. Okay, so and this is actually I tried to come up with an example of where I would use a short description but not a label, because labels are they kind of interrupt the flow, and sometimes you want an inline like interactivity component, and it's very obvious from while you're reading it visually what's going on and the fact that okay, I'm looking through and I have three inputs here. So I need to fill in my three favorite foods in the same in these each one of these boxes. But if you're listening to it and you get to the first input, it might not be clear that you have three. So that's where it's good. Like you don't need to label one, two, three, but you may want to add a short description that says, this is what's happening to the screen reader user. So let's go ahead and work on that. Does everyone know how to get um, information from documentation? I'm guessing yes, right?
Does the short description go before the text input or after?
It's a child, just like a label.
Oh.
So one thing I've noticed about the new style of writing is I almost never use a self-closing tag anymore because almost everything that used to be a self-closing tag has an input now or a child now.
Except when you're making examples for us, and then we have to get rid of your self-closing tag and
It's like my nemesis when opening up anything that's more than 2 months old. It's like finding them all.
Mhm.
Ah, yes. Is it time for a hint on the hiding the second paragraph?
I mean, apart from making it its own step in the cascade, but I don't think we
Oh,
want
yeah.
that, right?
You could, but no, there's an easier way. And this is sort of obscure, so I just threw it in there for fun. So I'll share my screen and show you. Yeah. Um, so the within the p tag, or you could do this for any component. Any component can be hidden. You use the hide attribute, and then you want to add some logic. And so the it's tricky because a lot of times you might have something that you want the user to change. You could just be say something like, okay, the point is no longer at 0, 0, and that's easy. Um, but here we have blank, so it's like sort of an undefined, I don't know what the technical word for it is. There's no value stored in food one. Um, but we just want to say that they have done something in food one, because it could be anything. And so now that we have this lovely, like, what do you call this thing?
Autocomplete menu.
Autocomplete menu, yes. This is amazing because properties, there's so many state variables that Donut keeps track of. It's hard to keep track of what all the names are. But if you know that this should be a value that Donut is storing, like I have a circle, so it should know some information about the circle. You can scroll through, and this immediate value changed. It says this is a property on the text input, which means I can just do dot, oops, immediate value changed. And that will say, as soon as the user has entered any text in there, that will be true. So, um, hide if this is not changed, right? So you can either type in an OT, or you could just do an exclamation point in front of the reference. So I want to hide if they haven't put anything, they haven't typed anything in food one. And then I want them to fill something out for everything. So I'm just going to do it for all. So just to combine these Booleans, I'll just do this. It gets kind of long, but if you have a complex Boolean where you want like multiple different kinds of conditions to occur before you want hide or change the state of something, a lot of times I'll just define a Boolean component outside in the setup or something, because then you could just reference the Boolean. So this hopefully will work. I didn't actually play test this beforehand, but now it's hidden. Oh, okay, what I do wrong? My logic is wrong. Food one, food two, and I forgot the operator here. Okay. Okay. Dwayne, help me out here. I'm having a,
What, that worked? What's wrong?
but I did I type something in the third one? I didn't notice.
Yeah,
I
you
must,
did. You typed it and erased
oh,
it.
and then I deleted it. Okay, so that one did work.
It worked.
Um,
When I don't I don't understand why it would be an or. Wouldn't or mean you could fill in any one of them and it would appear then? Like
Just
it
to
feels like it
hide.
would.
It's a negation. It's not show, it's hide.
Oh, it's negations. Oh,
Yeah, so
you're
that
right. I
yeah,
misunderstood the
yeah.
what it
Which is
means for
why
the
I did it.
immediate value changed to be true, and I forgot about the exclamation mark.
Mhm.
I see.
Yep. Um, and okay, so that is my trick for that, but there
And
are
if you
a
use
couple
value
other
change
ways.
rather than immediate value change, then at least it would wait for them to hit tab out of it.
Oh,
So
oh,
I would
that.
actually change all those to value change rather than because right now, as soon as you type the first letter for broccoli, it showed up.
Ah, and that's what threw
And if you
me.
really want me to, if you
Yeah, there's so many. So again, there's like so many different properties that are being stored. I love autocomplete. Okay.
no, at least it'll wait for you to write, hit
Mhm.
tab or hit enter or something.
All right. So that's uh short descriptions. You can use them in combination with labels or in lieu of like labels. And then, if you're doing an answer tag and you're validating it, um, it's similar because, an answer tag will generate automatically, even if you didn't have, so here I have a math input embedded in an answer tag. But if I didn't have that, um, it would automatically create one. So the same requirements hold true for answer tags as any kind of input. So you have to have some type of thing to make the accessibility checker happy. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to work on this, which is just change the answer tag to pass the checker.
So, have you like commented out the cascade feature? Because I have to, okay. I have to like go open, do all of them to get each
Yeah,
time.
sorry. That's yes, definitely just do that.
As a hint, instead of commenting out, one of the attributes of the Cascade component is reveal all, one word.
Oh,
Basically, it
like,
turns it into diagnostic mode, so you don't have to sit there and, well, either comment it out or type in all the
so,
answers. Thanks,
and that's
Dwayne.
like thank you. That's an attribute of the
So where you see
comments
the word
or of the
Cascade,
cascade.
yep,
Hmm.
place a space before the angle bracket and just type in
Right.
reveal all. And then everything should open up, and it's very helpful for diagnosing things.
Thank you.
I guess my question from earlier is more relevant here. So now should the label go before the math input or after, or does it not matter?
I put it inside the math input inside the answer. That's if I have a math input. Otherwise, you can just stick it directly as a child of the answer. But I think it gets mad at you if you have a math input and you put it as a child of the answer. Isn't that
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a math input, you have to put it inside the math input. If it's an implicit
I
one,
put
then
it
you just put it
outside. It
inside the
seems
answer.
okay with me.
Did you click update?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm supposed to get mad at you in that case, I think.
Oh, I had to get to exercise 3 before it gets mad at me.
Right, there's that problem with Virginia identifier.
Oh, that's what you were talking about. Okay.
Yeah, put a reveal all in your cascade as you're working on it, so you'll get all the errors right away.
Oh, I don't use these self-closing tags. That's why I'm not. seeing them.
Hey, Virginia, you never gave us the right answer for the favorite foods.
What do you mean the right answer?
You never told us how to get favorite foods to work. Or did we all figure it out?
Oh, right. I didn't actually show, did I? So that's a good point. We got distracted by the second task. So I'll share my screen. And what I like to do, and I mean, this is sort of creative license here a little bit, but it's kind of think of it as like a list. Um, so it's sort of just an embedded list that isn't a formal list. So I'll do um, enter food 1 of 3, something like that, and then I'll just kind of count it off manually so that the screen reader reads and kind of um, you know, make sure that the user knows where they are at in the sequence. So that's my solution, but it's not the only one, obviously. Anyone else have any thoughts on that? There's also other reasons I might use a description, but it's just like anything where you really want to customize what the screen reader user will hear. Thank you for reminding me of that. How are we doing on, what are we on, task 3 or 4?
I finished exercise 3.
Cool.
That's the 0-2 list, you mean?
Yeah. Okay. So, come on, Zoom. Sorry, Zoom is acting very bizarre for me right now. There we go. Load. What did you use as your attribute?
Oh, I moved the math x equals inside a label environment inside the math input environment.
Got. Okay, cool. So did you
Was I supposed to do something else?
no, there's like a bonus task. I'm just sprinkling in bonus tasks, and if we don't have
Hmm.
time, I can move on. But if you have sequences like that, you can and just because we had another example,
Oh,
one way to do a
I
sequence
see.
and
Unordered.
another way.
Okay.
Yeah. So the way to do that one,
Like math list unordered, I think, right?
and it's interesting because you can put unordered on the list, you can put unordered compare on the answer tag or the award. So you can get it really granular if you want to. But you just need one of those. Okay, so the fourth one, and am I going too slow or is this pace okay for what we need to accomplish? What do you think? I'm trying to think if we can speed anything up so that Dwayne can spend more time on graphing. Um, so 4 is, I don't know if that's really accessibility. We could technically kind of skip that. That's for the description.
I should definitely do the description. Or at least show us how to do the description.
Okay, yeah. So one thing reason I feel like this kind of fits under the heading of accessibility is because it feels like this will answer, this will take care of accessibility. It feels like this, if you add a little note like this, and here's the description tag, and I'll show you what it looks like. So this is anytime you want to do a little tooltip because you think your users are going to get confused about how to enter something, or, maybe you say this is case sensitive or whatever. So I'm
Right
going to
inside the
say,
math input though.
oh, right. No, usually I put it on the answer tag.
Oh,
I'll show you how I do it.
I
And
thought it was okay.
will it make the little eye go aside or inside the a button?
Oh, I don't know. Try it. Maybe I don't remember. Maybe you're right. Try it.
Okay.
I thought
Well, um,
that
so here is a common one that you just want to remind them that they can type SQRT. And I'm going to test out because this one I know it will put it a little tooltip icon outside the answer checker and it looks like that. But this does not make this happy. So, if there was some error here, having a description is not going to make it go away. I'm going to go ahead and put it inside the math input and show you why that's true. So you can see that it's angry with the math input. And then I added is what did I do?
there's a close your math input tag.
Ah, thank you. Okay. Okay, so it's in the same place regardless. So I think it doesn't matter where you put it, but it
It's supposed to
doesn't.
be in the math input because then it actually ARIA label puts an ARIA label in the input. But
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
as
I'm
far as
learning.
like directing screen readers where to go.
Okay, cool. So just make the child always of the math input unless you don't have one.
Mhm.
Um, and it doesn't take the place of a short description. And technically speaking, it's a little trickier, at least from I use voiceover. It will read off like in sequence from left to right. So it'll read the text associated with the input box, and then the answer checking button, and then the descriptor. But so this doesn't satisfy those requirements. So you just need to make sure if you do want to do one of these, you also have a short description that says whatever you want it to say or a label. And then exercise 5, which you guys can do on your own, is just illustrating that we have lots of different kinds of inputs. And so anytime you have an input, you can add a label or short description. So Boolean inputs, choice inputs, sliders are interesting. They must have some baked in thing that makes the checker happy because it doesn't like get angry at you if you don't use a label, but you can add a label to a slider. All right. Any questions before we move on to graphs?
Do is it still accessible? It seems like I don't when I write problems, I don't need to use a math input for
Mhm.
the answer. I can just it'll just do an input box if I give it the answer. Is that okay? Or do like accessibility wise?
Yes. Yes,
And of
because
course, ignoring the point of math input, then I assume would be if you need to reference that input later.
mhm. Yeah, it's if you need to, yeah, use some logic, or you're basing the, credit off of like, did they, what happened with multiple things going on up above, and then you just want to validate it. But yeah, without it, with just an automatic, it will insert it behind the scenes. And so then when
Hmm.
you put the label or the short description on the answer tag, it's actually assigning it to the math input is what I assume is happening, right? Dwayne?
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so let's talk about graphs, or do we take a break, or how does it go?
Why don't we ask people if they want to take a break? Does anyone want to take a break?
Stretch break or whatever.
I take a 2 minute break.
Okay.
Can't you? Maybe I'm missing something from what Virginia said. But if you don't use a math input and just have an answer, can't you award things based on a reference to the answer?
That's right. You don't, I mean, you can, so if you have an answer and you only have short form awards, like without the when, so if you just have award 5 or award whatever, then it will stick a math input in there and it will just match the math input to whatever's inside the award. On the other hand, if you do award win, then you have to have some math input and you have to actually do, well, or it could reference a graph, could reference anything, but with the award win, then it won't automatically put one in. You have to either put it in yourself or put it somewhere outside the answer. Am I answering your question? Doesn't look like I am.
You are. I feel like I'm just having a deja vu moment. I'm going to try it out myself.
Okay. Okay, is it my turn? Has it been 2 minutes? I wasn't really looking at the clock, but I think it's been 2 minutes. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is how to do graphs and images. And some of the stuff is like how it works for any web document, and then some things that are particular for Doenet ML. I guess I'll just share my screen. Okay, so I'm in the scratch pad. I'm gonna do something just blank here. Um, so if we do a graph, so this is a graph. We've already done these a bunch of times. Function x cubed minus x, something like that. So by default, the way that graphs are set up with a regular renderer is that they're handled by screen readers in the same way as an image. So the screen reader doesn't have access to anything inside it, and it just says, hey, this is an image. And so what you need to do is you need to put in a short description, which is, if you're familiar with like alt text for an image, you have to put in a short description and you have to put in there, and this is the tricky part, it's like, what do you put in for a short description? Like, and in this case, it's a graph of a cubic function or whatever is important for the particular problem at hand. And we'll get into that actually, where I'm going to give you the same function graph, and then you might want to put a different description depending on what you're trying to tell the students to do. But this is the basic idea. How do you write alt text? Um, that I feel like how to write effective alt text is a little bit beyond the scope of what I'm going to talk about today. So do we have Virginia, do we have a reference to that in your document? Some of these texts on making good alt text.
There's not a lot in that hello world, but in the example for the adaptive graphs I'm going to share,
Okay.
is is it's not a how-to, but it's an example of how to do it in context.
If you go to load accessibility pointers and then you go to the donut, there's like here's some advice on writing alt text, which you can read that if you want. But we're not going to go into that. It's basically the same idea. What do you come up with? What's important pieces? So I'm going to go back to my graph function. What do I have? X cubed minus X, short description, a cubic function. Like that. Same thing is true with an image. I should have gone back to a donut. What's a good maybe a URL for an image? Let's see. I'm going to copy this. Okay, image source equals, someone give me a URL for an image. I know, let's go to the Doenet page, data.donet.org, and I'll go to about, we have a donut. There we go. Let's get this link. Copy image address. There we go. So of course we want a picture of our donut in, is it not called source? Oh, I put the quote in the wrong spot.
Quotes at the end.
There we go. Yeah, that's good. Now I get an accessibility error. And so the same thing is true for an image. You need to say, well, you can do one of two things. You can put a short description and say a donut logo. And then that gives you the alt text. Or if it really is just decorative and you don't really care, you want screen readers to completely ignore it, you can also give it the decorative label. Oops, I missed it. Decorative. And what the decorative label does, if I could just click correctly, it tells screen readers, just ignore this thing. And so the screen readers will completely look over it and it'll be like invisible to screen readers. So if it's just like some kind of little design in the upper right corner that you don't really need people to look at, you can give it a decorative label. But typically you would give it a short description, again, just like with graphs. Videos are the same thing. I won't do a video, but videos also have a short description that you can use to tell them basically what the video is about. Okay, so that's pretty standard. Now I want to talk a little bit about what some extra things that Doenet can do. If you want the graph to even be more accessible, I'm gonna make this a little more complicated. I'm gonna put a point, name equals P, 34. And now it's a point and a cubic function just for fun. If you want to make it to go to the next level of accessibility, you can use a completely different renderer. And this is use the render tag. This is preliminary. We're still working. Not everything works in this renderer. But there's a software called Prefigure, which is it's not interactive, so I can drag the point here. But when I update it, now it's a prefigure. It takes a little bit longer to build the first time you do it. I can't interact with this anymore, and I'll show you why in a minute. But this, if you use a prefigure renderer, then you actually have available to you a better integration with screen readers. This is actually, you can actually output to Braille, although we don't have that hooked in with Doenet, but prefigure itself. And here I'll show you how this works. You can add something called annotations. And annotations allow a screen reader user to navigate into the graph with the arrow keys and have it sort of highlight different pieces and explain them to it. So let's see, I'll show you this. You do annotations. And I usually just start with the shorthand annotation skeleton, just because it's hard for me to remember how annotations work. So I'm going to go ahead and do, actually I have to label this first. It doesn't work if I don't label it. I'll think of a name equals that. Do annotation, skeleton. Then it gives me basically the format of how annotations work. So you have a tag called annotations, and then you have this nesting structure of annotation, singular. The first one is an annotation of the graph itself. And so this is what you want the screen reader to read when you're talking about the overall graph. And then you can annotate individual pieces. So here I can annotate the point. And by default, it just says a point with coordinate, x coordinate, it just reads this out. And then a function, let me say, let's say a cubic function. Let's say a cubic function. Then, if I save this, and then I go and I navigate to this graph, the screen reader will read it out. In fact, you don't even need a screen reader for this. So if I click on it,
A graph of a point and a function.
now the question is, did that come through or not? I don't remember if that works. You could hear my audio. And then you can hit the down arrow and you can navigate to the different,
X coordinate 3 and Y coordinate 4.
and then I hit the right arrow and I can,
Cubic function.
and you can, the screen reader can navigate
X coordinate
Through-
3 and Y coordinate 4.
through the different pieces, and it allows them to explore the structure of a graph. And if they are, some screen reader users are, completely blind, some of them are low vision, and you can see how it's like, if you're low vision, it zooms in on that particular feature and highlights it to make it easier for them to see what it is. So if we think writing image descriptions, short descriptions is hard, annotations is, it's even harder. Now you have to think through it at a different level, like what are the things you want to do? What are the things you want to call out? And we'll play around with that during the exercises. But this is the basic idea. So you use the left arrow and right arrow
Point and a function.
and up and down to navigate through the screen reader, and then you tab out of it and in of it, in it if you were using a screen reader to go to the next thing. But this is like the sort of cutting edge way of trying to create an image that low vision and no vision users can navigate. But you give up the ability to navigate it, at least currently. I can't move it with a mouse. And we'll come back to that later at the end. I have time about how we could handle, maybe you want to do some navigation. Any questions about this?
I see that the point and the cubic functions annotation are nested within the graph.
That's right.
So is the nesting essentially defining the levels?
That's right. You have to, the way this program works, you have to start off with just one. So if I put another annotation here, I am ignored. I want to change I might get rid of the annotations thing and change it a little bit, but right now, the second annotation, in fact, it says, oh, is that how it worked? See, that's why I always do the annotation skeleton. I can't remember the syntax. Text equals I am ignored. That one will actually be ignored. So you have to, and you can also do this. You could do, if I added another point name equals Q, I could, if I wanted to, put the 2 points together. And should I give it a name? Yeah, give it a name. And then I can nest an annotation around it and say annotation text equals a group of 2 points. Oh, I don't want it on F, I want it right around here. And now when I navigate,
A graph of a point and a function.
I go down,
A group of 2 points.
I get 2 points, and I go down again,
A point with x coordinate 3 and y coordinate 4.
And I go right.
A point with x coordinate 5 and y coordinate 6.
And so that's the way you can group it into different pieces.
A group of two, a graph of a point and a function.
Does that make sense? And so you can make a hierarchy. The hierarchy doesn't have to necessarily be the hierarchy you made to create things. Notice how my point P and point Q weren't next to each other in the graph, but then I can put them next to each other in the annotation. Okay. Well, now you need to work. Now is a chance for you to work on this. So what you do is you go to this, this is in the chat. If you go to that link, you will get to this making static graphs accessible. And then I usually just say add it to the Scratchpad, or you can copy it into your copy it into your document. I guess you want to save it. I just put it in here. And now this is your homework. Not your homework. Your homework to do right now. I'm giving you a graph, and then I'm asking you to try to make some annotations with it, but under the scenario that the student is asked to identify the minimum. And then think of it in conjunction to this one. It's the exact same graph, but now what I'm asking the student is, in what interval is the function increasing? And the idea is to think about, okay, based on what I need my student to do in order to answer this question, which is how many local minima does the function have? What are the values of the local minima? Think about what you want for your annotation so that's possible for a screen reader user to answer this question. How's that for a hard assignment? So I'm going to give you a chance to think about this for a little bit, but then we're going to work on, I don't actually expect us all to figure it out on your own. So we'll actually, because I don't really know either, but we'll let you think about it a little bit on your own, and then we'll try to do it together. And there are warm-up questions too about just putting in a image description and things that you can see in that list. Are you guys stuck yet? Let me know when you get stuck.
Dwayne, can you clarify number 6 in scenario 1?
So number six is like, it says if more than one, separate your answer. I guess a typo. Should we separate your answer by commas? Like, where do you want to put that information? Like, one place to put it is like in that little I, in that little extra little information pop over.
Okay.
You remember how to do that?
Yes. I guess the question itself, I found it awkward to read.
Right. I was trying not to give away what tag we had to use. So,
Okay.
and I was trying to talk about the whole point. The point of that particular tag is it's available for both screen readers and sighted users, as opposed to a short description is only available for screen reader users. Well, do you guys want to talk about what you did? Anybody want to share or either verbally or show the screen what they came up with? Or tell me and I'll type in what you did.
I'm happy to share.
Oh, come on, Eric, we're just about to do it.
Oh, go for it. I'm sorry.
Again, just demiked or demuted.
Go
I
for it,
was,
Eric.
if no one else wants to, I can.
I'm happy to sit in the back of the
People
room.
pressure. Oh, you don't have to share. You can share your screen, or if you don't want to, you can, however you want to do it.
I'll share this. Um, can you all see that?
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see. So here, so I did renderer in with prefigure on this graph here. It's
Mm-hmm.
zoomed in right now because it does this. I actually sent this question in chat, but I was like, how do I move
What?
it to the next part of the graph
Can
from
you use up
here?
arrow?
Oh, it's not, it's just giving me a,
Huh. Uh,
oh, well, anyway, I guess I can show you what I did in the code.
okay. Sure.
I added this section
Mm-hmm.
essentially, which Uh, I think I completed P and Q, which was like I said that for P, I said it was the furthest left and lowest point at which the function changes from
Mm-hmm.
from decreasing to increasing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, For Q, I said the middle point at which the function changes from increasing to decreasing. I was meaning to make this one also like switching, but I was just trying to figure out how to get it to move between
Right.
points. So this one needs a little more work, but I would probably do something similar for now.
If you add a space and then save it again, like for this right space, or just something so we can
Hmm.
and then update it. What does the
Yeah.
graph do?
So if I try to click over a Q, everything goes to.
Oh,
He doesn't have a
yeah,
parent.
yeah. I see your problem. It only recognizes one annotation. So you have to have um an annotation wrapping the whole thing, like another, so put another layer around it.
Oh, I see.
And so
Oh,
the limitation of
within.
the software is, yeah, put that in exactly.
Oh, oops.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Right, and then you just
Nice.
get some text there that you wanted to say for the whole graph. Yeah. Hmm. You probably need to give it a text. I don't know well, let's see what it does when you um
Oh, I see.
like
Oh, well.
like you want to say text on line 37 equals and then
It's
whatever you want to say for the whole thing.
right. So this would just be a graph of a quartic function, maybe.
Mm-hmm. As long as you
So
don't mind
then
that
if
it's actually not a quartic, but it's close enough.
oh oh right, right.
It's a cubic spline. I mean, it actually is, but that's okay. I mean, uh,
Oh, okay.
I'm assuming your readers can't tell.
Oh,
And
so now if
clicking doesn't do anything. You have to use the arrow keys.
I see.
And now you can navigate left and
Uh,
right.
I see.
And we can actually hear the audio.
Oh, you can't? Oh, oops. Yeah. I
It's
can
like,
hear it.
yeah, when you zoom, when you share a screen, there's an option to also share your audio.
Oh.
And if you don't, then it doesn't share the audio.
Uh,
But you can only do it if you stop sharing and restart. I haven't figured
should
out
I
how to do
do
it.
it?
Sure, why not? Just for fun.
Okay.
And then when you hit share, we
Share
just look at
sound. I
if the
see.
share. And now hopefully it will.
Now if I click on this.
The middle point at which the function changes from increasing to decreasing.
Now we can hear
Did you
it.
hear that? Okay.
Mhm.
The furthest left and lowest point at the middle,
Nice.
furthest right.
So you could tab around on these with the
Mhm.
screen reader then.
So what is the now? Let's imagine you're the student. So now go down and let's see if we can answer your question based on that.
Local minimum is oh, I also added this, which was type in a number. I didn't know if this
Okay.
is what
Yeah.
we
Sure.
were going for. That's accessible to both.
Mm,
But although it doesn't
that
satisfy the
right. Yeah.
accessibility,
Like a short description doesn't satisfy the actual labeled requirement. You can add that, but you also have to add either a label or a short. You have to add either a label or a short description, and
right?
then the description is fine, but it just doesn't help you meet accessibility requirements.
I was wondering if it would be appropriate to put this entire thing in the label, or is that too much?
Try it. I mean, I think it'd be fine.
That's what I do. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
Vision is the expert here, but
Uh, wait a second. Oh, was that the right one? How many
yep.
local? Yes. Okay. Type in a no. Oh, so right here,
Hmm.
table. Okay. So that solves our problem. Looks fine.
Hmm.
Two.
So if you imagine your screen reader and you're going through and you heard those annotations, would you be able to figure out that it has a two local minima?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know.
Right? So the function furthest left, lowest point changes from decreasing to increasing. and then it goes, okay, and oh, imagine that you finish the description on R, right? So, yeah, right.
Yeah. The
I mean,
point. Sure.
hmm Okay. So now let's imagine answering the next question. Although, okay, so this is the one where I was imagining if more than one separate answered by commas, I would imagine you put that in a description or something,
Yeah.
and the what values as being the label. But before we can imagine you could do that. My question is the harder answer is like, as a screen reader user, would you be able to answer that question?
And it depends, I guess it depends if you know what we mean by increasing and decreasing function.
Hmm
I guess you would have to either know or be spelled out in advance whether, I guess the convention of increasing is that we have to, is it getting higher as we move from left to right? But it's a matter of if the students know that in advance or
Right.
not.
So imagine you've taught them that, so they know that now. So would they be able to answer this question? Well, first of all, what's the right answer?
The local minima.
I'm talking about the next question. If
Oh,
what are the values of the local minima?
oh, I'm sorry. I was just working on this one.
Sure, sure. Yeah, okay. Very
I
good.
didn't write it with that in mind.
Right, right. So
So I would have to reference the exact points that they were
right,
at.
right.
So no, they wouldn't with the current description.
Right. And you also didn't describe the function itself. You also don't have a reference to the function,
Hmm.
but I don't know if you need that or not. I don't really know what the right way of of the best practices. But it's not, I mean, the point is it's not clear what you really don't know what you should put in for those texts unless you're thinking about, what information am I asking for? And you can't give them too much information, you give it away, right? So it's like it's actually pretty tricky to think about like what am I going to do and what am I going to say and what do I want them to infer? What do I just want to spell out? Especially if you think of like maybe the visual learners don't get the annotation, so you don't want to give, you want to somehow keep the difficulty more or less the same for those using the annotations or those using looking visually at it. And I would say it's not so clear, but it's something we can wrestle with, and we have tools now that can allow us to do this. Now, if you look at the second scenario, it's the same function, but what question are we actually asking them at the end?
So this is the one where my description would give it away. Well, it depends actually.
Right. All right. It's like, does that give it
Yeah.
away or not? Like, what do you want to, it depends on what you're trying to ask the students what do you want them to know about increasing or decreasing? And it's really challenging. And it's actually interesting. It also helps you, I think, write better questions for sighted users because it really thinks about what are you actually trying to make them infer? What are the questions you're actually trying to get the students to wrestle with? Because you have to make it more explicit when you write these annotations. Any other questions that sort of give you enough of a overview that you kind of get the idea? Any other questions about how you might use these annotations?
I guess it's more of a meta question or maybe a comment. Uh, I maybe was working on scenario one while answering scenario two. I did not use increasing or decreasing, but I said the graph monotonically passes through the point with coordinates 5 comma 5, or negative 5 comma 5 rather, and a point P with coordinates 6 comma negative 6 comma 1.
Mhm.
but I'm not telling students whether it's increasing or decreasing through that. But presumably, if they know, graphs are read from left to right, and it's
Hmm.
passing through those 2 points, if, as you move to the right, the y coordinate goes down, then you're decreasing. But I put all of this in the short description, and then I got to the second question, which said write a longer description, and the longer description is my short description. So how do you know what goes where? Because I put all those things in the short and the long description, and then the annotations are just very threadbare, and they say a point P with x coordinate so and y coordinate so.
Hmm.
So where do the words belong? Is
So
the
one
question.
important principle is that do you want sighted users to be able to read the words? Like a short description is like in play, like sighted users don't see the short description. On the other hand, the description is a little just little like disclosure triangle at the bottom. I guess we haven't actually showed you what a description looked like in a graph. But you actually want to share your screen and just show what you get with a description on Rod? How it renders. All right, so that opens up like that with a little like disclosure triangle, whatever you call it. So another thing about a description is you can actually put math in a description because it's actually rendered in the what's called the DOM. It's actually in the document. You can put in M tags and then math. It'll load up math jacks and then math jack can read things. In the short description, it's just a string and you don't have access to math jack, so you can't do like LaTeX or anything like that. And this, the way you've written it here with coordinates 5, comma 5, that is definitely how you would need to put it in a short description. In a long description, you can actually do an M tag and put in a coordinates and things like that, and then MathJax will read it out. That's one of the differences between a short description and a very long description. I don't know,
So
Virginia, do you have other insights?
Yes. So, my philosophy on the interaction of like the short description and the regular description is the short description is like 1,000-foot view of what's happening. Um, and so I usually, because I want to have visual users also be able to access the more detailed information. So I'll have, that 1,000-foot view, and I think you can put references and but you have to spell out things if you want to say, you know, um, you can't, like he said, you can't type math. But then if you're changing anything, I don't think that works, or does that work? Like if you change a reference, I don't think the short description.
Just pretend it does. I think it might
Okay.
not, but I mean,
Okay.
eventually you gotta figure out how to make that work.
So, but what I'm trying to get at is I do a lot of like graphs where things change because the users are interacting with them. So what's nice about having that separation is the short description just kind of alerts the screen reader users that they should do something to interact and they should go to the description for the more detailed information. Um, and that's accessible to both types of users. So.
So that was basically answering the question that I was asking, or was going to
Mhm.
ask. Then what happens with the annotations? Do you keep the bulk of the text? It'd be annoying to have to listen to this twice.
Yeah, don't ever repeat, and you would hear it twice. And also, one thing that Dwayne probably didn't make clear is that there's two different worlds. There's Doenet core renderer world, which is where you would use the short description and the description. And then there's render equals prefigure. That's when you would use annotation. So if you want them to be able to um, jump in and move around and select, and you want them to interact that way, then you would say render equals prefigure or render as prefigure. And then you don't need the description and the short description in the graph. It's a totally different
You
universe.
might still need a short description for accessibility standards. I'm not entirely sure. I'm a little confused with that part.
Then yeah, and then I would just make it, like I said, like a couple words, but something short and sweet.
Well,
And
let's talk about static things first before we move on to things where students can interact. So if I just have a static graph where
mhm.
I'm showing students this and asking them a question without having them, move anything around, would using prefigure be the best practice because students can go in and out of the graph as it were?
It depends. So you might have an application where you're just having multiple choice, pick the graph that's odd, you know. And so in that case, you might not even want a description because you just want a little blurb that gives some shape and you have like six of them and the sighted users can see it, you know. So they know, okay, this is a straight line and they don't need to like click in and get more details. So that's like the most crude level where you could you're basically just making alt text for your image. It's not moving. You just keep it simple. Um, you don't need a description then. And then if you want them, if you want to provide this really easy amount of detail, you can kind of do the combination of short description and description. And I think that to me, prefigure is sort of like the gold class of like, I have a graph and I want them to interact in this way. And um, it I have the time to dedicate to all these annotations and really put some thought into it because it's a much more like you have to think about each element of the graph has to have its own alt text basically. So is that helpful?
It is. This is painstakingly detailed. I did not. I don't think I've ever spent this much time thinking about 3 points in a curve.
I have never actually done the annotations. Am I allowed to use that like two-letter evil entity at all? Because I do use help a lot with descriptions, especially for functions and, you know, it's easier to take sometimes something and just edit it uh than, you know,
So you outsource the initial drafting of it
yes, I
for
do
other minds.
with careful attention to editing. But it does, and I don't know, I haven't tried that with annotations and prefigure, but I do that a lot with the descriptions.
Okay, any other questions on static graphs? However, Virginia, you want to take over with?
I think also since we have 20 minutes left, there's technically two other things we could talk about, right?
Mhm.
So um
I can
are
be
you
very brief with the last one, so you don't need to say.
oh okay.
I'll
So
just say,
yeah,
here's how you do it, whatever. We don't have to.
I think I did create like a task for this, but we probably won't get to it. So I will share my screen and just show you um prior to the existence of Prefigure being embedded in Doenet ML, I created my own sort of method for making things that students could interact with and yet were still accessible. Um, so let me just give you an example. And I'm sure there are lots of other ways to do this. This is just what I sort of found handy. And I mean, I think that the writing of the alt text for graphs gets easier, but it is you do it a bunch of times, it gets easier. Okay. Wait, no. Shit. Okay. Hmm. Why is this going? All right. There's so many little pop-ups. Oh, I can click OK on that. Meeting is being recorded. And now, can I go back? And copy. All right. All right. Can everybody see this okay, or should I like make it the text bigger? All right. That might be too again. I don't know. So here we have an example of like a simple algebra question that I have a graphing tool, which I'm careful because in this context, they don't have to use the graph. They could never open it up and they'd be just fine. But if they want to have a visual reinforcement of what they're doing, they can open the tool and then they can start moving the points around. And they can check the midpoint in the graph, and then they could get some verification, like visually, as well as through the description, because the description itself actually updates. So I'm not sure what it's going to say now because I moved that point. Yeah. Okay. So what I did was I created a short description that gives that bird's eye view. And then I created a description for everything that its contents change based off of what the user does. And so if I were to enter all the information, like I put point in here, so technically all of the fields are out here. And then it would give me, it updates and tells me what's happening. It says, here's where my points are, what they look like. The points you've graphed do not match the coordinates given in the problem statement. So that's first fact. Then I have a black point representing the midpoint, which does not occur midway between the other points you've graphed. So this gives, the same sort of essence of what the tool is for to both screen reader users and sighted users. So that's how it functions. And the way that I implemented this in the Doenet ML, after like sort of experimenting with it, I ended up just creating a skeleton that I stored in my notes and I used it over and over again. And so just here is my aside where I contain the graphing tool. And then usually, like for example, there basically has to be some type of input field because right now with clicking, you can't just drag only because the only way to really convey where the point is as it's, like moving, we don't really have that. We have to have like a precise value at a certain point. So the way this works, you can drag or type, and so it kind of catches both. So let's see here. Those are descriptions for the math inputs. This is just all of the math inputs that A, B, and C. And then I include a setup. And so I'll fast forward to the graph here. So here's the short description. And it basically, the screen reader will say, you're looking at an interactive graph that starts blank until you provide information. So go ahead and give the information and then view the disclosure triangle below the graph to see the results. And that is what the screen reader reads out when your cursor, if you're navigating with the screen reader, gets to this little I button underneath the graph. It calls it a disclosure triangle. So screen reader user will see that, hopefully go back up and add some text to the input fields. And then under the description, it just has this reference. So the reference is basically the whole point of the graph. What is it trying to convey? It's going to have some result at the end. So the description is going to tell some information if they have input information, first of all. If they don't put anything in, it's not going to share anything. And then it's going to have some check to see what is the result, usually. Sometimes more than one. So the first thing I do is I just check to see, did they supply the information? Did they move the points or did they add the coordinates? So this Boolean, which I'm calling info, is just saying, did I put, in this case, I just checked to see if they had the midpoint because it was already some like pre-fill information for the other 2 points. So that's this raw renderer value. I'm checking to see that it is not blank. So this is a blank text. And I guess I could probably use the other property as a shortcut too that we did earlier. Dwayne, do you think so? Can't remember why I did it this way exactly.
I mean, it depends on whether you want them to, if they type something and delete it, then the two be able to,
Yeah, okay,
so
I
it
see.
depends on what you want to happen if
Yeah,
they type a
yeah,
letter
yeah.
and delete it.
That makes sense. So this is just saying, make sure it's not blank, whether or not they've typed something and then deleted it. So then depending on, then I have a conditional content, and this is the stuff that goes inside that description. And I define it as a span, because I can basically put anything within a span, text, math. It's not like a paragraph. Dwayne advised me on this, so I can't get into the reasons why I used a span in detail, but that one works. Do you remember why, Dwayne?
No.
Okay. You'll be safe if you use a span. I know I did some tinkering around to figure that out.
I don't know why you just didn't name the conditional content, but I have no idea.
Oh, yeah, I don't know either. I feel
So this
like I
works.
would have tried it. Okay, so the conditional content is basically going to say if they haven't provided the information, then it's going to say that it's blank. And if they have, I am going to tell them all this text, right? No matter what. And embedded within that text, if you remember, it told me you're wrong. This is not the midpoint, and those aren't the right points. So what's happening here is this part do not or does, it's either does or do not, so it's a switch that happens on the text within the description that conveys the result. And sometimes it's more text, sometimes it's a little bit of text, and it just depends on the results you're trying. So there's actually 2 results here. Is do the points match? That's the first one. And then does the midpoint actually occur at the midpoint? Okay, so the way that happens is these are references embedded within that description. And then those references are also conditional because they have to check to see whether they're going to be, it does occur midway or it does not occur midway. So it's kind of like layers of conditions happening. And these are really straightforward to set up once you know what you're trying to like present. So you just set up a mathematical Boolean based off the references. This is the name of the endpoints, and I'm comparing it to the points that were defined in the beginning. And that basically all of that like constructs this thing that changes after the student. And then they can change it as many times as they want, and it'll always just keep adjusting. So that's kind of like in a nutshell how I construct it. And it feels like it's a little layered and complicated, but again, like I knew that I always had to set up a condition for revealing the description and then a condition for the result. And so once I had that sort of like structure, I just copy pasted it and then changed the conditions when I got to a new graph I wanted to do this way. Any questions on like the layers of logic going on. Does it make sense?
Personally speaking, I would have loved to see that from scratch, but I know time's of the essence.
Yeah, it's harder when highlighting. Uh, let's see if I can do one from
No,
scratch.
no, no. It doesn't have to be done right now. I'm just sharing
Okay,
a personal
yeah,
preference there, or not being able to wrap my head around the whole thing. I see what's happening
yeah.
theoretically, but in practice, how you
Hmm.
have the references seem like an awful parody thing of Christopher Nolan's Inception. Yeah. Description: Donut's
Well,
answer to
and
Chris Nolan.
tomorrow Dwayne is going to come up with a new thing that does all of this automatically. It's just how it usually goes. But I would maybe I could make like a short video or something about it too. But basically, if you gain practice with using conditional content, um, and with using these different accessibility features, the short description and the description, it's kind of just a matter of deciding, the thing that you can change is the description. And so maybe you just want it to be saying something, all along. But for me, I struggled with, well, what I'm going to have here is blank, usually, because this was a little different because it had the line and the points already. But a lot of my widgets, they start off with just an axis and a grid, there's nothing going on. And then the user types in some stuff and then they have features. So yeah, exactly. A conditional content would be good. Very powerful component. So it's sort of like the conditional content gets you in the first door of whether or not you can see that description or what the description contains. And then the second door is checking the features that you want to highlight as correct or incorrect.
So I want to give a short 5-minute overview of the last topic, or is that pushing it? I'll just do a little bit of a, uh, maybe more of a show and tell kind of thing. Let's see. Let me get the link here. I'll put this link in chat. Linking dynamic. Okay, well, I can actually, well, here, I'll share the screen with that on it. So the main thing I wanted to show is if I have a graph and I want to give screen reader users the ability to move things around, how do I do that? And there's different ways you can do it, but one way I want to show you is simply, so here I have a graph, move the car to the second quadrant, and you can, well, I better put a short description here. So stuff's being mad at me. Short description, a movable point. The one thing I just want to show you is you can do this. You can say add controls. And if you add controls to something, it gives you the screen reader an ability to move things around. In fact, I'm going to do add controls, and I'll use a prefigure renderer too. Renderer equals prefigure. Doesn't have to be. And when you add controls, then you can tab over to the controls and you can, move things. It's just another way of allowing, if you can't move it with a mouse, you can go over here, you can use the arrow keys to move this. You can type in X and Y. things like this. Just another way for you to be able to interact with a graph. You can imagine having a short, either an annotation or a long description, so that a user could actually, even if they can't use the mouse, they have to just use the keyboard, they could still manage to move the point to the second quadrant. And they could figure out, okay, I got to move this to the left, this up. The key thing, though, is to have the proper feedback. Like they have to. So I don't really know how well this work in practice. I haven't like this is a new feature, adding these controls here. So I'd say it hasn't been battle tested yet. Um, so I don't have good recommendations there. So what's the right way to give the screen reader user a feedback of what's happening when they're moving this? But at least allows them to then move things around and then hit check work and move the point into the second quadrant. That's the basic idea. I mean, I'm not gonna, since we're all this late, is where you can do with it. I have another question here. You can play around with of how to try to make this function work, adding the controls so that they'll get 3 sets of controls for these points. You can then put in the annotations on the different parts of the graph, and then they could go back and forth, move it, and read the annotations. And eventually find a way of manipulating the graph so that they can answer the question, even if they're using a screen reader and arrow keys, the keyboard. There are different types of controls. You can add just a slider or just the coordinates, and you can control for different. But I think, given the hour, I will let you explore that on your own if you have energy later. Unless there's any particular questions that you want me to give you any more details on how this works. If not, I'll just leave you with that. That was supposed to be just a little teaser of what you can do. I hope this workshop was useful and gives you an idea of some of the kinds of things you can do Doenet. I think we're all wrestling with the best ways of doing accessibility, and it's kind of exciting to think of the new technologies coming out that lets us address some of these issues in effective ways.
I know this isn't planned, but can I have 30 seconds, Dwayne?
You're scaring me, but okay.
Doenet use now requires a $100,000 deposit with, this LLC in South Florida. Checks, Venmo, cash is all welcome. But on a serious note, I guess the first workshop series comes to an end today. I'd be curious, and you're welcome to email us or send us a note somehow, or just share now if you like. What would be helpful as next steps? We don't have more workshops planned, but I'm sure Dwayne would agree to run more. At least he said that privately. Not really, but I'm sure we would like to be of more help to new users. And I guess as a second note, what could we as a community do now that you're part of it to help you stay in the community? Do office hours, are they helpful? Are they not helpful? Are they at a time that's not convenient? Or do they seem too scary? I don't know. What can we do to keep you interested in writing Doenet? And what else would you like to see, if anything? That's it. I think I stuck to 30 seconds. But if anyone does have spare $100,000, I'm happy to put it to good use.
Very good. Okay. Well, let us know if there's anything more we can do. And it's been fun running this first series of workshops.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. It was good.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good one.
Okay.